And welcome back. It's time for our Capital Report with Pat McGuigan of CapitolBeatOK.com. Pat, welcome. Let's talk about tax credits. I know that we've talked about this before, the tax credit hearings going on at the Capitol for the past several weeks, maybe actually months now, being chaired by David Dank. What did Chairman Dank or Representative Dank tell you this week that we need to know about? What's
well,
important?
Noteworthy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it pays, and you know this, you're standing in the hall at just the right time,
Yes.
and the guy comes by and you say, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? There were just two of us talking to Representative Dank, and this is not a shocking disclosure, but it was news. We knew that he was having legislation drafted by staff to propose doing away with the transferability of tax credits. He told us this past week that he will push on that, and that will be something he's absolutely, definitely going to do. Now, he left the rest of the agenda. He said, I got to wait to hear from my colleagues on the task force, which is not only legislators, but also other state officials. So there'll be other proposals and other particulars, but that's one that's big. Now, the transferable tax credits are pretty controversial in the first place, because a business that had nothing to do with the original subject matter of the credit can then take that and use it after a sale or transfer to reduce its tax liability. So that's been pretty controversial. Now it has its defenders in the business community and elsewhere, but Dank has said that's one he's going to aim at getting rid of.
What's the potential impact on economic development if a bill like that were to go through?
I don't think as dramatic as doing away with the credits and exemptions themselves, which there continues to be discussion about which ones might go. But it could have some impact, because this has become kind of a comfortable pattern. The chambers, the state, as well as some of the local economic development groups use them and utilize them, and they say they're an important weapon in their quiver, if you will.
And so do you think there's a chance that that bill, assuming he does propose it, does it get through, do you think?
I think that bill has a pretty good chance. But again, every particular proposal and the transferability has its share of defenders. Regardless of your views on incentives and tax credits, the transferability is one that's particularly vulnerable. And then there's a few of the other particular programs that just don't seem to have worked that well and don't bring as much value to the state. You might see some of those go. Beyond that, it might be pretty challenging, because there's a constituency for virtually every one of these.
All right, let's move on and talk presidential politics. We're post-Labor Day now, so we really can get into it. We are starting to see the Republican race for the presidential nomination maybe shape up a little bit, and we have President Obama traveling the country talking about economic policy and job creation. Just kind of your thoughts on the events of this past week.
Of course, the Republicans had a debate. And I thought Rick Perry, for his first time out, did pretty well, with the exception of the Social Security issue and maybe some kind of the strong rhetoric. I don't know. People may respond to that. I thought Mitt Romney, in combination with his 59-point plank with 10, greatest hits, did pretty good this past week. And I thought he held his own. The others were there and were not as effective. There are some interesting ideas in the Republican field, including Herman Cain's idea that, heck, if the Lord only wants 10%, let's keep the government to 9%.
Right.
And that's kind of got some cachet. And then there were a lot of others. I think Michelle Bachmann is facing a lot of challenges to make it to the finish line.
So look into your crystal ball. What are the Republicans ultimately looking for in their nominee, and what does the president have to do to shore up his chances?
First, the president. The president has SOBs and jobs, and I'm referring to the SOB comment that Jimmy Hoffa made. He may be a prisoner of his base, because Barack Obama has shown that he can rise above strict liberalism. But he is locked into a base. To not renounce that comment, which was so inflammatory, it puts the Tea Party to shame. Quickly, I think that's a problem for him in the long run. Quickly on the Republicans, it's clearly at this point a race between Perry and Romney. Republicans are looking for someone Reagan-esque. It's no accident that this particular debate was held at the Reagan Library. But what does that mean? Does that mean the aggressive Reagan, who people forget that that was actually a minority of the time? He usually spoke in very measured and visionary terms about the future. They're looking for someone like Reagan, but it's 2012. It's not 1980. So stay tuned.
All right, Pat. Of course, you can read more about these and other topics at CapitolBeatOK.com. Pat, thank you. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.